Hey everybody, this is Perch. I mean, if I'm being honest here, every now and then when I get in the car, when you're getting these videos for the car, and people, you could tell, right? There's two very different audio tracks. There's ones when I'm sitting in front of a computer, got a microphone, audio is good. There's other times when I'm in a car, like right now, the audio sounds like this. I don't. It's not terrible. I've stressed myself out for a year about bad audio, and I came to a conclusion that some people are just nuts, or they were doing a very clever troll by telling me my audio was bad. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. So I listened to them like, wait, it doesn't sound that bad on this machine. Maybe if I buy this software too. I mean, I think people got me to spend at least a couple $100 on audio software and things just to try and improve. And then finally it dawned on me, enough people finally, came through for me in the comments like, your audio is fine. Just shut up. We're not, it's fine. We're not expecting Dolby quality of comic stuff here while you're driving around just talking off your mind. By the way, just to answer another question, there's no script. Like, there's never a script. I never write stuff out ahead of time, which I think is obvious by the amount of times I say or I just randomly lose my train of thought and go into some other crazy story. There's no prep. Like, I admire people. You can always tell. Like, what is it? There's this guy, the Literature Devil, has a channel, and I have no idea. I haven't heard much from that channel, but the times I have listened to one of those videos, it's like, I mean, clearly, like he's got it. Like, that guy's a super genius, or he's written a nice script for himself. He's putting it out. Like, I mean, God, it sounds brilliant. Whereas I'm like, just went to go buy some glue at the Home Depot, and now it's time to head home. And so I guess I'll talk about comics, but in the headset. That's what's going on. By the way, one other pro trick, and then I promise I will talk about comics. But this is a funny one, and it won't last for long. So I just want to encourage everybody to do this quick. So you go to these shops that have self checkout and regular checkout, and a lot of them are doing both. Home Depot is one of these. They have a bunch of self checkout aisles, and they have somebody helping you check out. And what happens, at least at the one in Redmond that I just was at, is the self checkout stuff. There's a big line to self checkout. Meanwhile, the let somebody else check you out registers are open and clean because there's like one person working like 6 registers. Well, in the world of COVID, it's all self checkout, baby. So this is what I did today. I just walked up to one of the registers, grabbed the little gun, scanned my item, put it in. Like, as I'm paying, the Home Depot person comes over like, do you need help? They're scared to tell you, hey, dumbass, you're at the regular register, not one of the self checkout ones. But so they won't say anything, and I'm just like, all right, I'm helping myself. And it was funny. I do this, and I see these people in line at the self checkout area looking over at me like, is he going to get away with this? Is he? Oh my God, he's just unlocked a life hack. And so suddenly, just all the other registers get consumed. This is what's going to ultimately lead to no cashiers. So I probably just devastated part of the economy by taking people's jobs away. But all right, so now I feel bad. Um, anyway, seriously, I just try it out for yourself. Like, it's in the world of COVID, everything is self checkout. Just go nuts. That's my advice to you. This is not legal advice or sanctioned advice, and liabilities are your own, and blah 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 blah. Legal advice is not binding advice. Anyway, comics. Uh, I got a question about what how when a creator's not working out on a book, right? If a writer's pitch is just it's not resonating with the audience anymore, an artist pitch anymore, like how do those people go away? How do you fire those people? And the answer is actually far more boring, which is why maybe I did this big lead in than you think. In most cases, the writer and the artist, not in most cases, in all the cases, it is a contract position. So firing people is very easy. You just don't, you just in the contract and it's over. And with artists, it's particularly easy because artists are kept by and large on a really, really short leash of, like, you're given a tie, like, hey, we want you to do 2 books for us. We'll email you the first one and then get back to you in a month or 2 for the second one. And it's so, you basically have no real leeway that, it's very easy just to not return an email. You see these, tweets from people saying the editor ghosted me. This is very, very common. People just don't, they don't have to get back to you. And in a lot of cases, as we've seen editors and assistant editors come and go, that that behavior is even more common, that you just don't answer, and that's how you end a relationship. Once upon a time it was trickier, especially when you had people like working in a bullpen. You'd have longer stints on things, and it is one of those cases where I point to previous decades. You had longer contracts, so you actually would have some sense of this crazy thing, stability and security. These are crazy, the two S's, the good two S's. It was that thing that comic companies used to provide, publishers and editorial used to provide a longer term roadmap to creators, and in that world it was tougher to fire someone. And maybe one of the reasons why you had you've seen that we're moving on to this more short term employment, this very ad hoc employment, is because every now and then you would see a creator that would be told they weren't going to continue on a title, and they would lose their minds. There's plenty of urban legend type stories. Maybe urban legend is the wrong word. Rumors that could go one way or another, but at least half of them are true. Things like an artist hiring some people to go beat up an editor, losing a job. A writer throwing a phone across the room and smashing up a table when they were pulled off something. The like weird little Easter eggs where somebody would insert somebody else into a book and make fun of maybe their dead wife, or just there was a lot more. Shenanigans feels like way too nice a word, but there were definitely incidents. Today, if somebody's getting removed from a title, it's much more loose, and unfortunately, the idea of firing is less common too. It's like you talk to a lot of people in the industry, and people just kind of fade in and fade out of the industry. There are absolutely people who are quote unquote blacklisted from the big two. No, they're not all Republicans. There's other people too. Um, there are Republicans that work at the big two. I can confirm. But there are people who are blacklisted, but they're never really told this. They're never really told like, hey, we don't, we're not going to work with this person. Instead, it's very, very soft. It's just like, yeah, maybe we'll do something. Well, I'm looking for a pitch for you. I'm looking for the right project, so I'll get back to you. And then just years go by, and the industry kind of operates in this mode of, if they don't want you to work there, you just quietly fade away. It's actually, fade makes it sound gradual. It can be very sudden. It's just that nobody pulls the Band-Aid off. And it's one of those areas where I think comic leadership could really improve by being more straightforward to people. Like, hey, you're not going to work at DC anymore because you did this and this, and you threw this tantrum over here, and it caused us a lot of embarrassment, and we're not going to work with you anymore. Take a couple of years and see if you can straighten out your image, and then maybe we'll talk. But for the next 5 years, you're not coming back. Just be straightforward with that. Instead, it's always like in fact, I've heard this said at cons. I've talked to editors who say things like, oh, we just, we all just kind of not respond to mail. And if they really pester us, and then we'll just say that, we're still looking for something. A lot of changes in the company right now, trying to figure it out. We'll get back to you. And I think that wishy-washy lack of clarity about who's in, who's out, what's really going on, is what actually leads to a lot of these problems. It leads to a lot of sycophantic, very weird behavior. It's what, you take, there's a writer I have in mind right now who had a Kickstarter recently, and a bunch of that person's friends who are also writers who are more successful will do things like help chip in on his campaign and do little things that way. But he's never getting a job at the at the company. He's never going to get a short story or something in the anthology. It's never going to happen. Now this guy is completely oblivious to that fact. He continues to go and be a cheerleader on social media for how great they are, but the reality is everybody hates this guy. Like, they all hate him. Just nobody wants to say, hey, you are a goofball. You post obnoxious crap on social media. You make it uncomfortable for other workers who are employed here by throwing subtle shade, or sometimes not subtle shade, at them. Nobody wants to work with you. You're seen as a troublemaker. We also know that you leak information that is told to be confidential to news sites, and so you're not going to work here. And I wish somebody would just say that to the guy. Just instead, we all have to watch this somewhat embarrassing spectacle of him shilling for like, oh my God, this is so great. Look what this company's doing. Oh wow, this is just the chef's kiss, amazing, yay, yay, yay. And it's like they're never going to hire you, dude. They're not going to. They've all. I mean, me, a guy who's a comic retailer on the outside, has heard firsthand that they're not going to hire you. Like, how do you not know this? Certainly, like, are your friends all trying to be too polite and not telling you that you're not getting a job there? Like, just say it. The looseness of employment, I think, sets up a lot of bad things. It also makes it so that people tend to cling on in the wrong ways. It gives the editors a weird bit of power because it's all very mystical, who's in and who's out, and so it requires a lot of sucking up. One of the things that is going to happen at some point is that Disney and AT&T both have very, very firm rules around how to handle vendors, improperly, you know, taking bribes, basically a lot of these things. If you work for AT&T and you go out with people for dinner, you go out with, in theory, somebody who could be a customer or a vendor of AT&T. They can't accept drinks from you. You can't buy them a drink. They will say no. You're not supposed to do it. Those are the rules. Same thing with Disney. Disney's got this weird, like, somebody can buy $25 worth of drinks, and then you have to buy your own drinks. And so, I've worked with both these companies. At times I've taken people out and on both sides of the equation. And it's like, yeah, the rules say we can't do this. And they will test you. They will, they'll take it very seriously. And there's a reason why they do that. They don't want bias. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Absolutely, people skirt the rules all the time. But when somebody gets caught and becomes egregious, then there's a very public firing, and it's ugly. And at some point, that will roll into Marvel or DC, unless, of course, the companies ultimately shed them and license stuff out to others, and then they wash their hands of the whole thing. But a lot of the kind of ways that creatives are hired by editorial really are across the line of dodgy, to the point that it will interfere with the company's rules if it ever becomes an issue. And here's, unfortunately, where I think it all heads. I think at some point, somebody makes a case out of it, and it's going to be one of these people who maybe is currently working at the big two. I have a couple names in mind who maybe got their job a little too quickly, that they were kind of groomed up in for this position, and then sales aren't going to be there, and they're going to be kind of quietly asked to leave. They're going to cut back on the work. And at that point, the person who was hired too quickly, who doesn't understand what it means to actually struggle and work their way into the industry, is going to throw a fit. And that person's just going to happen to have a lawyer friend or somebody who works for Vox or someplace like that. And articles will be written, and it will be, this person took advantage of me. This person grew me, and this person was willing to take my gifts. And then, when I wasn't of any use, they fired me. That's the story that's going to come out. And then what's going to happen is a whole lot of HR meetings and other nonsense, and it's going to shut it all down. And for a bunch of people in comic publishing, it's going to be a really, really terrible, dumb lesson that's going to happen. And people are going to, it's going to be bad, because the industry has set itself up in this position of hiring and retaining work in sometimes unprofessional ways. And if you're by the way, if you're a creative and you're listening to this right now, my advice to you is just be professional about your work, about your relationship. Certainly be friends with your coworkers, your editors, whoever it happens to be. But make sure that when it comes to the legitimate stuff, like the contract or passing over materials like pages or whatever else, do it professionally. Be a little bit extra professional. Just keep it nice and clean, so that when everything hits the fan, you can at least say, "Look, I've been doing it on the up and up. It's not me. I'm not the weirdo who's been screwing it all up, and that's going to be good for you." And it's just good anyway. I mean, the worst part about it is when you put somebody in a weird position where they're thinking that you're giving them a gift and they owe you a favor. Like, just this, that's no way to go through life anyway. But I'm weird that way. I borrow money from nobody. I am the guy who will fight over who gets to pay the check. Absolutely, every time. And it's just me. So it is what it is. Anyway, there you go. that's my comment to you. Uh, Thanks for listening.